Hey everybody, welcome to Game Off Podcast. What do we got this week? We got some news on Fallout First, the hottest value in gaming. We also got Delay-Palooza. 4 or 5 games got delayed today. We got our usual Fireside Chat, and then we have a special peripheral off. We're featuring Ring Fit Adventure and VR game Trover Saves the Universe. I'm your co-host, Brent, aka Arcadia, along with
Andy, aka Solitalker.
All right, and let's kick this shit off running. Fallout First. Tell me about how this is such hot value and try and talk me out of buying it.
Oh, so you remember last year when Bethesda accidentally released an in-house multiplayer mod as a full game and then tried to cover it up by pretending it was intentional?
Yeah, Fallout 76. That's the one, right?
Yeah, Fallout 76. Well, yesterday or the day before, they announced that on top of having paid $60 if you were stupid enough to buy in the first week, or $30 if you were smart enough to buy 8 days after release, for the full game, which wasn't obviously a full game, it was like an unpolished multiplayer mod that was used for in-house testing that accidentally got released.
Yeah.
They're now offering all sorts of wonderful benefits for anyone who wants to pay them $100 a year for this full price game that they got. And I don't know if you've heard this part of it, because this is, I think, news as of today, but anyone who bought that subscription, the features are broken.
I did hear that. I heard, so one of the features is the unlimited storage with the scrap box, and apparently it's deleting all their scrap or something.
Yes, let's go over the features real quick. The benefits that you get are playing in a private world exclusively to you and your friends, which is something that people have wanted since before release. So obviously, $160 in now, you can have that. You get the scrap box, which is great for storing an unlimited amount of crafting components. You get a survival tent, which gives you, I guess, just a deployable fast travel point, essentially. They give you some of their nonsense currency to spend every month. You get a unique outfit, which actually, is a memorable, notable outfit. That the Ranger outfit from Fallout is a notable outfit. It's not nonsense. And then you get some unique icons and emotes, which, much like Fortnite, Fallout 76 is well known for the emotes that people use. A lot of GIFs out there of Fallout 76 emotes. As you've already alluded to, anyone who happened to buy this subscription because they accidentally took far too many of their painkillers after surgery and were not in their right mind, or were on a bender, or had just undergone a horrible breakup.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Yeah, they're on a cocaine bender. They're doing kind of like an 80s themed party with a lot of drugs. Something. Whatever reason you have for accidentally buying this subscription is fine. No judgment here. Your scrap box is just going to delete anything you put in it, apparently. So this unlimited, all the work that you've done, you've got a game that was never finished, and then you paid an additional $100 for promises down the line. And one of the promises that they gave you right off the bat actively deleted your progress. You are now worse off than you were before you purchased it. And not just because you have less money and because you feel shame and accomplishment for what you've done, but because they've actually deleted some of the things that you've put in there. So that's great. The other one,
how much of this do you think is like machismo, where they're just getting kicked in the sack over and over again, and they stand up and they're like, "Thank you, sir, more, please." What else is broken? Sorry.
Oh, the other one, which I also love, is the servers, the new servers, private servers aren't new. They're lived-in servers. People are going around and finding areas already looted in their private servers. They're finding
like abandoned servers.
Essentially, yeah, that they've just been like repurposed. Like you've got refurbished servers. They passed Bethesda's 12-point inspection. And now,
from a programming standpoint, that's very efficient of them.
Sure.
But from a consumer standpoint, that's gross. That's disgusting. Are you
And
kidding me?
they're also not private servers, because anyone on your friends list can see that you're in a private server and join your game, and you can't stop them.
Are we redefining the word private now too? What won't Bethesda tackle?
So if you've been role-playing as a merchant and you have a ton of people on your friends list who maybe necessarily aren't actually your friends, they can just start bombing into your 7-person private server, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Man.
And then to top it all off is just the cherry on the whole thing. Bethesda didn't register falloutfirst.com. So someone from 4chan registered it and has filled it out with basically Fallout fuck you first. And a very well-crafted takedown of absolute nonsense. And then a link to the IGN review, which is fantastic. And has one of my favorite lines that I've ever heard in a review. I love paying for possibilities.
I mean, you never know what you're going to get.
No.
That's for sure.
Yeah, it's great.
Even though you're supposed to be paying for what you get.
It's like if you could buy a Kinder Egg that inside of it had another Kinder Egg you had to pay for. That was empty.
Or a scorpion.
Yeah, it just had a scorpion inside.
You know, bravo, Bethesda. Somehow you never fail to impress.
They are so impressive. I don't understand it. It's like watching someone trying to build their house in a river and then somehow accidentally setting their collapsing river house on fire. Like, it wasn't going to work. You can't build a house in running water. And not only did you somehow maybe get something standing, but now it's on fire in a river. How have you even done this?
Thing. Somewhere down the river, like maybe like 10, 20 miles, the fire will be out. You still won't have a home, but the fire will be out.
And somehow there are still people standing on the shores of this river saying, you know, I want to live there.
What a fancy house.
I'll happily start paying rent on that house now, in the hopes that maybe you finish it someday and I can move in to your flaming river house.
Oh God. Oh, that just sounded like Anthem for a second. Son of a bitch. Now I'm just sad.
I was originally going to describe Fallout 76 as that animated book of concept art, but then I realized that it actually fit Anthem a lot better, especially with that that E3 reveal they did that was 90% concept art.
Yeah, and at least the concept art for that looks good. I can't imagine what the in-engine concept art looks for Fallout 76. Just like vaguely detailed male character 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
So that's all I got on this. It's so funny. It's unsatirizable. You can't write something that is a better satire of Bethesda than Fallout 76 has been. It's just nothing but arrogance over and over again.
Yeah, that's how it comes off too. Like, no one, like, people were genuinely rooting for this game to, you know, like claw its way out of like the mines of Moria and like make itself anew. And here they are before they even released the Wastelanders patch, the only patch that anyone cares about, which got delayed into next year, like spring next year, and not just January. So we're like 5 months out of any tangible content that anyone that's not already playing this game actually wants. And then they're slapping subscriptions that like are creating classes within the community. And it's incredible.
Like, how dare you sell the subscription before you've even finalized the patch that's supposed to bring people back to your service?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Where do you get off?
Even Warcraft took like 5 or 8 years before they started finding weird other ways to monetize. And here we are 1 year after 76's massively failed launch with a strange subscription model.
Just let it die, guys. Let it go.
Yeah, maybe that's the answer.
You know
Or
what?
maybe just wait till the game's done.
You know what? You know what they could do to salvage this, and it wouldn't make them a lot of money, but it would salvage things in my mind. Is if they set it up and they released it so that you could have your own private dedicated server, and they open it up to mod support. And so, look, if you want to set up your own
Which
private
they already have
server,
a platform for, right?
supposedly there was talk of allowing the private servers to have mods, but obviously it wouldn't
That
be
didn't
any.
pan out either.
Well, it couldn't be any mods that cut into their Atoms market, so it couldn't be any equipment mods or experience mod, anything that undercuts what they want to sell. Kind of like that whole thing with the custom quests in Assassin's Creed Odyssey that people were using to farm EXP, and oh no, we don't want you to make those kind of quests because we sell those boosters, so obviously you can't do that.
Yeah, don't be crazy.
So if they released all right, here's Fallout 76 Last Gasp Edition, and it's $15, and you can install it on your own private dedicated server and play, dickery around with everything you want, with anyone you want, and it's locked, and you can install whatever mods you want on it. Okay, that could be fun. That could be interesting. But yeah, whatever.
I hope the second X pack is called Death Rattle or something. Something way too on the nose.
The thing is, I could see them doing that, thinking that they're being really clever, and like Todd did at E3, where he's like, "Oh, I'm surprised you're all here."
Yeah.
Well,
no, you're not.
Yeah, and fuck you, Todd. Half people are there because they're being paid to, because they're journalists.
Yeah, well, they also stacked the first 5 rows with Bethesda employees, which is why they had fanatical applause to their mobile shit. That was embarrassing, and transparent. I get it. Oh my god, gross. You know what I'd pay for?
What's that?
A dunk tank that Todd Howard was sitting in. I just want to see that man with some water on his face. Maybe a little bit chilly. Need to hand him a blanket.
After the 15th dunk, where he's kind of pulling himself back onto the seat, trying to keep a stone face, but it's cracking a little bit.
Yeah. The fun and self-reverence is going away.
What about you? What's your story about? Tell us about all that stuff.
Yeah, Delay-Palooza, as I've coined it. Don't steal that. Trademark it. Today we have 2 different sides of the same coin, which are just games being delayed. On one side of the coin, Last of Us Part 2, what the original, wildly well reviewed, often considered one of the best games ever created. It's a Sony first-party game, and today it was announced that it's going to get pushed back a few months into the end of May. On the other side of the coin, Ubisoft delayed their entire slate for next year, starting with Watch Dogs Legion, and that also includes God and Monsters and Rainbow Six Quarantine, which is a spin-off of Siege. It's a different game mode.
Have they released a lot of info on Quarantine? Not to undercut what you say, just I feel like all I remember hearing about it was that one trailer.
I forgot about 2 out of 3 of the games I just said until I read this news today. I was like, oh yeah, oh yeah. But yeah, the latter 2 are pushed off to an undisclosed time. Rainbow Six actually all 3 of them were pushed off sometime after April. They were very vague about this. And I'll start in on Ubisoft, because the reason they delayed those games is because the last 2 major releases that they made have been colossal failures. And it's because of the exact same thing that happened to Assassin's Creed. They're pushing these games right off a cliff and hoping for the best. We can talk about The Division 2, which you consider the greatest game of all time, and literally the last game on our list this year.
God, that was so bad.
We can talk about Breakpoint, which is one of the worst reviewed games Ubisoft has ever released. And
I don't think we're going to even cover that one this year, are we? We're not doing that, right?
I don't want to. We should, but we have a responsibility to for our listeners.
You know what?
But I don't want to.
If I happen to get a free copy of it with a video card, like I did with Wildlands, I will. If we can,
time to upgrade.
If we can somehow convince Ubisoft that we are a reputable organization that needs review codes, I will happily install.
I mean, I'm sure they're just handing them out at this point.
Please play our game.
Please, God. Promise you'll like it. So literally the reason they said they gave in their hearing meeting was that both of those two games, major releases for them this year. Because remember, they didn't have a Watch Dogs game this year. They didn't have an Assassin's Creed game this year. So they were really banking on these two games to be successful. Well, I shouldn't say Division 2 was decently reviewed, but it was very samey, was the gist that you got from a lot of reviews. And I'm sure Andy can talk more about that. But Breakpoint was just panned across the board. Nobody seemed to think it was a good game, save for a few sources. So in their hearing meeting, they also admitted that they were financial disasters. So they had to take a hard look, like they did with the Assassin's Creed series, and say, we're going to push everything off, make sure we actually do fucking QA on these games, make sure somebody sits in and produces and manages these games instead of like the factory of Ubisoft that they've been running for half a decade now.
Well, I'm glad that they finally figured that out. You know, they've only been in business for what, 2 decades making games?
You know, a lot like us, they're just starting to be able to drive the car at that point.
Like, how many times do they need to learn this lesson? Is my question.
I thought that they hit a turning point when they were like, we're not going to do annual Assassin's Creeds. We're going to take our time and make sure everyone's a unique experience. And then they released Assassin's Creed Odyssey a year after Origins, which was just Origins with boats. And I was like, fucking, I've been had again.
They gotcha.
Why does this keep happening?
They gotcha.
They really did. A lot of people liked Odyssey, and I don't fault them for that, but I think it's mostly because people skipped over Origins. But that's a whole other thing. I can bitch about that a bit. The other side of that coin is Sony, who's delaying Last of Us Part 2, which is going to be a critical and financial success. And you can, just because of the reputation that they have with first-party games, you know that they're doing it for a good reason. And that reason is probably just, we need to polish it a little bit more so we know that it's like 100 out of 100 game. Not that we think it's shitty or something's like completely broken and we just want to salvage it and shuck it out the door. Like, there's a very good reason they're delaying it. So,
well, they're obviously delaying it because they need to get feedback from SJWs on how to insert more agenda into it. That's what I've heard, at least.
Oh yeah. Is it just the lesbian thing, or are people mad about other stuff now?
Oh, because it's a woman. I don't know if.
Oh, the female lead too. Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, women are only good for milking, right?
Yeah, it's like they say, there's only 2 genders, men and politics.
It's an amazing quote. Yeah, I just love the timing of this story and the dichotomy between these, like, the two cultures around delays, where it's a completely financial decision and a completely reputation decision. Like, I'm not saying Sony, it doesn't have like a dime in the game. They absolutely do, but they also are well regarded for their first party games at this point. And so they are willing to take like 3 months and just be like, just make the perfect game. Like, make sure it is the game that you envisioned when you started out on this quest. And Ubisoft, on the other side of that coin, is, oh shit, apparently a 1.5 dev cycle is not enough. Let's take 3 more months on all of our games. I don't. I'm still positive like 2 out of 3 of the games that I mentioned before are going to be mediocre at best, because honestly, like, I just have lost so much goodwill or faith in Ubisoft over the last few years. That's just like I don't know, man. They just gotta strike it lucky and make another successful game at this
I
point.
don't think they're going to if they keep going the way that they do with just kind of serializing their existing IPs.
Yeah.
They got to do something different. They got to try something different. And I don't get that feeling that they are. I think they're too comfortable, and they'll continue to be comfortable because even as their games don't do, I mean, because like Ghost Recon, that's not. They're still going to make money if they put out another Assassin's Creed game next year. They're still going to make money if they put out another Far Cry game next year. Like they could run a shitty company for another couple of years and not really lose the outside industry insiders cachet.
Yeah.
That's just my thought on it.
No, I mean that's completely fair. Like the bottom line really is like just make really, really good games. Don't make good games. Don't make passable games. Like you consumers deserve better. Take your time. Like you found a way to like really break into the PC community with Siege. People love that game, and nobody really liked it that much when it first came out. They found a way to make that a service, and it's doing better than ever today. You don't need to create every game as a service, but like just think if you took the extra 6 months to get Siege where it was at launch, like you probably would have kicked off with twice as many people, and then it would have been twice as successful at this point.
I honestly think that they are in a position kind of like Bethesda, where they don't know why people like their games. They don't get it. And because there's no way that like something like Bethesda could have understood why people liked Fallout and made the decision to make Fallout 76. Because it's just the antithesis.
Yeah.
There's no way that people could have understood why people liked Ghost Recon Wildlands and made Breakpoint, or whatever the fuck it's called. Like, it's just the opposite of what Wildlands was. Making it a looter shooter puts the focus entirely away from the stealth mission mechanics that were in Wildlands. Wildlands wasn't about loot. Making it about loot is just pointless.
Yeah, no, it seems like they want to be in every popular genre and have their fingers in every pie, but you don't need to do that. Like artisans still exist in this day and age for a reason.
Yeah.
Find what you're good at, get better, and then maybe try other things when you're good at all of the things that you were good at originally, instead of getting worse at those things.
There's among a lot of solitaire games, and I know this is going in a bit of an odd direction, but just follow me here. You can look up any word and solitaire, and you'll find it. Baseball solitaire, Halloween solitaire, Yom Kippur solitaire. It's out there.
I'm gonna try garbage.
If you type
solitaire.
Garbage solitaire, someone will have a trash man or garbage man or recycling themed solitaire game.
There's actually a card game called Garbage Solitaire. Son of a bitch.
There are companies that just churn these out, trying to hit every possible. People are looking for Halloween themed games, looking for Valentine's Day themed games, looking for election themed games. They just slap another skin on it, and I get that feeling of like what Ubisoft is doing. They have a bunch of these IP skins that they can just slap on a game premise, a game loop premise. Open world, drop you in, helicopter crashes, and now you have to go around and do these missions, clear these areas. Sometimes you have to go after convoys. Sometimes you have to sneak in and kill a guy. Sometimes you have to defend a spot. Sometimes you have to turn on a thing and then defend it. Sometimes you take over enemy camps. Like, it's all the same general loops, but just with a different... This time it's Far Cry, this time it's Assassin's Creed. So I think that they're just trying to like whittle it down to just the core Ubisoft game that they can then throw whatever skin they need to on it. And I'm sure I'm not the first person that said this, but stuff like Breakpoint just further accentuates that, because there was no need for it to be a looter shooter. No one was asking for that.
Yeah.
But all their other games are looter shooters, and it works kind of, except it doesn't because they're garbage. Division 2 is horrible. Anyone who says otherwise is wrong.
Oh, well, that's not the
No,
hottest
it's
take,
not.
but I'm sure plenty of people agree with you. I was gonna say it's like $10 this week on sale, and then I was like, oh man, I must not have done well until I heard about their earnings call, whatever you call it, and it confirmed that full heartedly. It was like, oh yeah, things aren't great. Can we forget about
Because
2019?
people liked the Division 1. It did well.
I like
Oh
the
yeah,
Division 1. I had no interest in Division 2.
I had a lot of fun with it, and then when they added in a lot of that post game stuff, like where you're playing through like a blizzard and those like essentially
Mm-hmm.
post game raids that you could do, those are great. Those were a lot of fun.
All right, Fireside Chat time. Hey Andy, how you feeling today?
If you couldn't hear, I'm coming back off of having lost my voice, but I'm doing okay.
Oh, this is
It's
from all the
from
raving.
all the raving. I've been playing a lot of Borderlands 3 and just screaming at it a lot, so this is just kind of coming back from that.
Just at the game in general.
Yeah.
What are your feelings on world records?
Okay. So I think that there is kind of almost a semi-universal, one of those universal experiences where kids, upon finding out about the Guinness Book of World Records, get it in their mind that they're going to set a world record in something. Either like they're going to come up with something so specific that no one's attempted a world record for it, or they're just going to be the person that balanced the most number of quarters on their elbow and then flicked it down and caught them all in their hand. Something ridiculous like that. I think that they are generally an interesting thing when you can watch people attempt them. Like a world record for stuff that's just accidental, or stuff that, the world record for most people in attendance at a football game. Whatever. Like it's an interesting data point, but there's no story behind that. It's just, this is the most people that were at a football game ever. And I'm sure part of that is just due to, fire marshal capacity for that building. But when you like, I love watching and finding out about new records and speed runs for really well-traveled games, and reading into like what they figured out that you could shave off another 2 seconds. Like that stuff I find really interesting. Or world records in sports and things like that, where it's just you kind of see these pinnacles of human achievement in certain things are interesting. And then the weird ones, the ones like longest fingernails ever, longest hair ever. That again is just kind of like human achievement or human ability to withstand discomfort.
Something that binds us all.
I'm sure, again, another kind of universal thing. You wonder as a kid, how long could you let your nails grow? And having some the Guinness Book of World Records looking at it, like, wow, you can let it grow really long and it looks super gross. Don't do that.
Yeah, I have to travel with bags on my hands, and I can't eat my own
I'm sorry,
food.
Mom, for saying that I wanted to let my nails grow out forever. Clearly, I was wrong. Thank you for showing me this weird picture.
You set my ass straight
I
fast.
think in the course of this, I've actually talked myself into being pro world record. I think they're generally good things. How about you?
Yeah. No, I think I agree with you there. There are some interesting ones. I think I always maligned as a kid. I remember buying one of those Guinness World Record books, maybe out of the Scholastic things, like when we were in elementary school.
Mm-hmm. That's where I got mine.
And reading through it and be like, I don't care about any of this bullshit. Like it's just a bunch of dumb things that I would never think that I would care about. And this book is trying to tell me that I should care that someone, like ate 10,000 pencils while, motorboating a giraffe. Like I can't possibly care about that. I'd like to watch it in real time, like to your point, but reading about it, not so impressive. I do always remember being mad though that there wasn't like a good source of like video game records back then, because there weren't like a ton of games. So all I really wanted was to see, like how fast people, like I wanted leaderboards but in paper format, It's like, oh, this dude did this level of Mario Kart 64 in like 12 seconds. And be like, how the fuck did he do that? And like have like a blurb about how he did that. But that really all there was just like anyone ever cared about was like Donkey Kong and Space Invaders, and there's like a couple of sites that track that. That was
Yeah,
it.
like the old Twin Galaxies doing the arcade and Atari.
Twin Galaxies, yeah, exactly.
And not that, they've had some issues recently as well with a lot of questionable scores that they've authenticated there. I remember very early on seeing this probably would have been about 2005 when people were, at least the first time I was aware of people posting speedrun videos online, and seeing a speedrun of the facility level in GoldenEye. And like, 'cause
Okay.
I thought I was going pretty fast at it. And I thought like, oh, I'll look up and see what the fastest anyone's ever done it. And watching the video, and like, wow, I am going dog shit slow compared to this guy. Like, just, opening a door, boom, boom, keep moving on, like something out of a Hitman movie. Just knowing.
I didn't even know you could sprint in this game.
Yeah,
what the fuck?
Exactly. And that was the first time I really realized that there was on a completely different plane of gaming out there that I just was never going to hit. You think that you're good at games, because I never played fighting games, really. I played a couple, but never online, never competitively. So I never saw that, like, oh, this guy's been playing Street Fighter with the same character for the last 3 years. Never saw that obsessive, just like with a sport or like with a passion, just honing it down until it's at its purest form. I never saw any of that. So seeing those initial speed runs that I did was kind of like, oh god, I'm horrible at games. I'm really bad at games.
Do you have any claims to fame leaderboard wise?
There was a short period of time. Do you remember Audio Surf?
No, unless it was a Harmonix game.
No, it was a Steam game back in, I don't know, 2007, 2008. That was, you could take your MP3s and it would generate a little racetrack that you'd play on, and
oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, you'd collect certain things, little power-ups that would show up based on beats in the music, and you'd avoid others. And for a while I had the highest score on a couple of those, a couple of songs. And they weren't really
Nice.
Obscure songs either. They were fairly well-known songs. I don't remember what any of them were. I think they might have all been ska songs. So, I was a really cool kid. And I think I've gotten the high score on oh, you know what it was? I had the high score in a couple of tracks on Danger Zone when that was originally released. That's about it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Nothing really notable. How about you?
I was thinking, so I think of two. There was like a Guitar Hero, one of the downloadable songs. I'm sure only like 5,000 people downloaded this song, but I was like top 10 in that because I played Guitar Hero obsessively for probably like 3 or 4 years. And then, do you remember like the weird, I don't know what they call them, but they were like VR missions in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood?
Oh, yeah. Fucking love those VR missions.
Yeah, for some reason I did the first one, and then I got like a decent rank, and I was like, I'm gonna keep doing this until I get top 5. And then I just did the first mission of that for like 4 hours straight, and I was in the top 5 like in the first week that game released. And I was like, yeah, I feel good. And then I came back a week later, and I was like number 90 or something already. And I was like, I hate this.
I wish they had made more of those.
VR missions, yeah, dude. Like, those were fun.
Yeah.
Even the Metal Gear Solid ones back in the day, like those were a lot of fun. Although I guess you can't call them VR missions anymore. I don't know what you'd call them. You guys figure that out.
I got a question for you, Brent.
Okay.
Yeah. How do you feel about running marathons?
Oh man. Personally, I have shin splint. I can still feel my shin splints right now from playing basketball. So that sounds like a goddamn
and that was in
nightmare
junior
to me.
high.
Yeah, exactly. So here's the thing, like there's certain limitations that we as humans just refuse to accept. Like your body, like your body can't run for 10,000 days on end. Like you need protein in some way, shape, or form. Things like that people just refuse to accept. Like I see so many like really healthy, fit, trained people that in their body is just falling to fucking bits at the end of marathons, and there's limitations to the human body. That being said, like there's so many 5Ks and stuff that are amazing, like for charities, and they don't push your body that much. I just as long as you're doing it for a good cause and you're not pushing your body to the brink of fucking death, like it's good exercise. It's good for charity. But
I wonder if at that point, can you call it good exercise? Like, not that it's bad exercise, but the amount, like, that's like saying, like, playing in Game 7 is really good practice. No, you had enough practice. That's why you're there.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. Like, you like if you've trained to get to that point where you can run like what's a marathon like
God.
70 miles, 13
70,
miles.
It's
know.
Somewhere. It's 13 or 70 or somewhere in between.
So it's still an upsetting amount for someone like me who does like interval workouts where we're never actually running at that long of a duration for any point in time, or moving or using my body at any length. But yeah, I mean that's it. Like, don't kill yourself, please. Take care of yourselves. Research what is a healthy limit for a human body before you commit to a marathon because it's fucking trendy. Like, please.
This actually segues.
Do a 5K for charity.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. But do anything for charity. Sleep in a bed for charity.
Sell your body.
Yeah, sell your body for charity. This actually segues really nicely, and I'm just going to segue this directly into our showcase because, because I had that Ring Fit Adventure game, and as a sentient bag of overnight oatmeal, I did not do well with the.
Did someone call you?
No, that's entirely the self-appellation there.
Andy's staring in the mirror. Overnight bag of oats,
you
for sure.
You sentient bag of overnight oatmeal. You disgusting wad of man flesh.
Stop eating chicharrones right now.
Oh God. Thankfully, I don't have any of that in front of me. I don't think I have any kind of snacks within arm's reach here. Beyond that, though, if my arms were slightly longer, it'd be a problem. You'd be hearing me crunching all the time. I am not the right person. We talk about how someone's like, oh, you have to admit, like, oh, I didn't actually finish the game. When you're reviewing it, you want to be kind of honest and upfront with that. And sometimes it's just a matter of, a game like Dragon Quest. You can't finish the Dragon Quest. It's infinity hours long. It's an impossible game to finish. Same with Fire Emblem. It's an unfinishable game.
100. I've beaten most of those.
You're a liar. You're a liar, and I don't want people listening to this to think that we're both liars. So I'm distancing myself from that statement.
All right, fine.
I did not finish Ring Fit, and not just because it's not a game that can be finished, like there is no end state, but also because my body is mostly made of pudding, and I could not finish it because I am too weak. The flesh is painfully weak and stringy, and it was unable to. So for the uninitiated, Ring Fit Adventure is this generation's Wii Fit board or this generation of Nintendo fitness peripherals. It is a little strap to go around your leg, your thigh, to measure your ups and downs of your thighs. And, well, just one thigh, really. I think the assumption is that if one thigh is moving one way, the other thigh is moving comparatively. And a big circle that's like 1.5 feet wide that you can squeeze in or pull apart and rotate and things like that. And your, I want to keep wanting to call them Wiimotes, Joy-Cons slot into this leg strap and this cool little ring that I think they call the Ring-Con. I really hate their controller naming scheme. Ring-Con. And it slots in there, and it can...
Ring Con Air.
I wish. If they made a fitness game based on Con Air, I'd play it. I'd get real into that.
Just gotta hold your arms in the air for hours.
There's a real lack of video game adaptations of John Cusack films, and we need to remedy that. These peripherals hook up to a game called Ring Fit Adventure, where you can do a bunch of different exercises and do some general training, or you can go on an adventure, and it's kind of a loose infinite runner and turn-based RPG shell around essentially, I don't know, interval training or just doing different calisthenics and stretches and things like that. So the controllers are great at picking up things like running in place, doing crunches, doing squats, doing lunges, doing a lot of different yoga poses as you lift the ring con over your head and slowly move it down and to the side. It can tell when you're pushing in or pulling out, bending the actual ring, and at first it feels like you're kind of worried that you're going to break it, but the thing can take a lot of abuse. I've seen videos of people who are far more human shaped than me giving it their all, and it was taking a lot of damage, so I was impressed. There was no risk I was going to do anything of it, assuming I didn't leave it behind my car on the pavement. And
oh my God.
You go through and you do these. You like to move on the infinite runner. You jog in place to collect coins. You rotate the ring fit. You kind of point it in different directions and you squeeze it together, and it shoots out a blast of air that can hit stuff and interact with it. Or you pull it and it vacuums up things to you, which I think is a mechanic that they've had in a lot of infinite runners of, shooting things or sucking things in. You can point it down and it'll shoot you up in the air a little bit like a jump. And when you get to these battles, you go back and forth with the computer, and your attacks are things like doing 20 sets of squats or 20 reps. I don't know the difference between sets and reps. I'm not a very smart person, but doing 20 squats essentially. And it tells you, all right, go down, hold, and come up. And you do that 20 times. And depending on your speed and your consistency and not bouncing while you're doing them, it deals an amount of damage to the enemy that you're fighting. And then, the next time it's your turn to fight again, you have to pick a different exercise. So maybe this time it's holding the ring con over your head and pulling on the controller so that it exercises your shoulders and upper chest area. And that's the general conceit of it, is this kind of RPG-ish game around an infinite runner that's powered entirely by you doing exercise.
That sounds like what I've heard about it. I got some questions for you. Is exercising fun yet?
So it is surprisingly enjoyable. You definitely don't forget that you're exercising, but the fact that you're doing something and it doesn't feel like you're just like, I've played a couple of the Fitbit games and those are garbage because they don't feel like you're doing it. Just you do some walking and then your steps become essentially XP that you can use in a clicker game or in an idle game. Like, this is actually, your running in place is affecting the speed of the guy in the screen. And if you get your knees up, you can go up the stairs faster. And if you aim properly and shoot properly and you do things better, you're actually doing better attacks. So it feels more like a game that has exercise in it than exercise that's just been kind of turned into a game. It's... I think of the wrong way that a lot of other games I've played are like when people put beets in brownies to get their kids to eat vegetables. Like, you just kind of made worse brownies. Whereas this is more like you found a way to make vegetables taste good to kids, rather than you've taken something the kids like and made them worse by sticking vegetables in it. And it's got... one of the things I didn't mention before is that it's actually got quite a few mini games that you can play that are all revolve around one exercise. They almost feel like, essentially, it's almost like Mario Party style games, but instead of burrowing a hole in your palm trying to play it on the N64 controller, you're using the ring con to power a similar item. So you're doing squats, or you're doing various things, crunches, to try and move the guy and interact with the car on the screen, or the whatever you call those little like strongman things where you slam down and the bell goes up. Those kind of little Mario Party style games.
Yeah.
And they feel like games.
Hammer
like
smashes.
You get excited as you're getting closer, and you can really get close to finishing it or getting a higher score. It doesn't have multiplayer yet, really, but I could see in a family that had $400 to spend, getting 4 people together to all play Mario Party style games with these ring fit controllers.
Wait, so only one comes with the ring fit?
Yes, it's
like one device?
Yes, it is one peripheral.
How much does it cost as a separate purchase? Do you know?
I don't know if they even sell it as a separate purchase. I didn't even think about that. I think it's just the thing in the game, the physical game, and the peripheral for $80. I think $80.
How many Joy-Cons need to be attached to the actual
2,
peripheral?
one to your leg and one to the ring.
So for an entire family of 4 to play at the same time, you would need 4 rings and 8 Joy-Cons.
Yes,
that's what I'm hearing. That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. Right. That there is no doubt about that. That is a lot of money.
How do I save my family from getting fat?
Well, I mean, what you do is you sell all your other systems so you can afford all the Joy-Cons and the ring fit, or you take turns, either one.
Yeah, fair enough. Does it do more or less tracking wise than a Fitbit would? You kind of already touched on that.
It does, because it can actually seemingly tell like how well you're squeezing, how even your squats or your press or anything like that are based on the movement in it.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to track more exercises than a Fitbit can, and it seems to track them. Like a lot of times it felt like the Fitbit kind of was a bit of a hack in how it was tracking the exercise. Like, yeah, it's tracking it, but not really. It's not tracking if you're doing it right or well. It's just tracking if you're moving up and down vertically.
Yeah. Are you sitting on a dishwasher? Nobody knows.
Yeah, whereas this feels like it's actually, because it and when you first start the game, it shows 3D representations of the leg strap and the ring controller on the screen that move as you move, kind of like, I don't know, some like a demo of it.
Yeah.
And it's impressive how small movements it picks up.
Yeah, it's like a motion capture.
Yeah, it does a very good job. Almost like the Kinect did, where you the first time you see it, you're like, wow, that's doing a really good job catching my movement.
Yeah. How immersive is the story, and how sad were you when the main character died?
Well, obviously, I don't want to get into spoiler territory with the main story. But no, the story is about immersive as any Mario sports game. It's there to provide just enough to tie together things. Like I don't know if you played Mario Tennis Aces on the Switch, where you accidentally unleash a tennis demon that can only be defeated by beating it in tennis.
Oh, I've been there.
Yeah, it happens. And so, it's a very relatable storyline. But yeah, it's just enough of a storyline. You're some dude with red hair, and as you're walking, you find this ring thing on the ground. It's like, hey, untie me so I can be cool again. And you untie it, and it's like, oh, psych, there was a demon in me. And the demon gets out, and then the ring itself starts talking. What the hell did you just do that for, buddy? We gotta stop that demon again. Let's go jog in place for a while.
Fantastic. Academy Award.
It's pretty good.
Can you use the ring for Mario Kart or what?
That's a really good question, and not that I've heard. I don't know of any other, and actually that's something that I have been thinking about, is how much access to this technology other developers would have. Like, could other developers make games using these controllers, or are they more proprietary and locked? And I don't know that. But it is an interesting thought experiment.
Yeah, it's coming out sort of late in the generation, so I have to wonder like how much access, like how much they've exposed the APIs and whatnot. And they very well might have not at all. Like this could very well be a one-off thing. Whereas on the Wii, there was a ton of different side things.
Yeah, because the Wii Fit board had a couple of other games that you could play with it, didn't it?
Yes, yeah, there was like off-brand like yoga games and stuff. I definitely remember that.
I would be shocked if by the end of the Switch's life cycle, there aren't a couple of specifically yoga games for this, because it does seem very well suited for it.
Yeah.
And the yoga instructional stuff that you can do with it is great. And it is, I've never done yoga before, but it does feel it feels very natural. And
Like
getting
yoga.
that feedback of like, no, we know that you're doing it wrong and you need to fix it. Which you don't get with, just watching it on YouTube or something like that.
God, it reminds me of Connect Sports.
Oh God, yeah.
Everyone was like, oh, it's not tracking me right. What do I do? It was like, oh, just like wiggle a blanket in front of it. And I was like, seriously? And I tried it and it worked. It was like 100%. You're the best at all sports. You're like all pro athlete. What are you doing playing Connect Sports games? And I was like, well, I guess I'm done with this. The illusion is completely collapsed. Is it fun for the whole family?
It's definitely not offensive in any way.
So it's not the Joker of
the
Switch community?
It has mentioned nothing about living in a society, and there's nothing about it that I would say is I don't know actually what the minimum age they recommend for it is, because I'm sure that there's some kind of legal plus physical or medical reason why like an 8-year-old shouldn't be playing it. But I really don't know. That's a really good question, though.
That's all the questions I had. I guess in the yoga sense, I'm curious if you could balance your entire body on it.
I'm happy to try once I've beaten it, and I no longer have any use for the once I've beaten my once I've beaten my body that is a Ziploc bag of scrambled eggs. I will gladly give that a shot.
Why are you so mean to yourself? And it's called cellulite. But also body positivity for the love of
No,
Christ.
it literally is. It is scrambled eggs. I'm on a really weird regimen. Doctors got very weird ideas. One of the things you can do with the Ring Fit control that I didn't mention is there's this kind of like playing while you're not playing that you can do, where you put it in like away mode, or they have a term for it, but you can keep doing simple exercises like just squeezing it, doing various presses and doing various crunches and things like that while like you're idly watching TV. In the same way that like you see people just doing bicep curls while watching TV or something like that, and it will track that, and when you go back and play the game you get credit for having done those, and you get EXP and other bonuses in game.
That's very cool. That's a good initiative. As I say, like our gymnastics teachers growing up, Gym is fine. Gym teachers would always be like, just do curl ups while there's commercial breaks in TV. Like, oh, that makes so much sense. I'm not doing anything except absorbing advertisements. Why not try and better my body?
So I have a better chance of fighting people when I get to the store and they don't have enough of the items that they've been advertising to me.
Fucking exactly.
Yeah. Otherwise, how am I going to get my kid a Furby? I'm going to need to punch some mom in the face to get it.
That's all the questions I had. Any final thoughts?
It's a lot of fun. It's if you watched the videos about it and you saw it lives up to the way it was sold, which I think is kind of the most you can say for a game like this. Like if you watch those videos and thought that looks really cool, I want to try that out, then you're going to love it. If it didn't seem to click to you, if it didn't look like that was going to be fun for you, you probably won't enjoy it. There is no additional depth that hasn't been advertised. Like that's how deep it is. But if you're looking for something that's just going to dangle a little carrot of numbers going up in front of you, then to get you exercising a little bit, this will definitely do it. And I will tell you, I am I've built up a sweat using it every time. I get tired, and it's not just because I'm not a human in any kind of way that would be expressed like in the Vitruvian Man, but just because these are real workouts. You're doing real crunches, real squats, everything. It's tiring. And it actually, the last thing, it has a shit ton of accessibility features as far as like what you are and aren't capable of doing. So if you've got bad knees, you can tell it, look, I can't do knee related exercises. I want to keep playing, but just don't give me anything that's going to exacerbate my knees or my ankles or my hips. Or you can really
That's cool.
fine tune it for whatever your disability or whatever your ability is, which is great.
Yeah. I mean, there's probably a million different options for that too. So it says a lot that they're going out of their way to at least try and accommodate some people.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there are people who are going to get a lot of use out of it, just out of doing upper body stuff or just out of just general arm rehabilitation. It's anytime there's a story like all the Microsoft adaptive controller stuff about a game being that openly accessible to the people is great, and I'm happy to see first party companies doing it.
I agree wholeheartedly.
But that's what I got. So why don't you tell me about your game? Tell me about
Yes.
Rick and Morty's virtual reality Funfire.
Yes, thank you, you tarp full of mulch. Yeah, Trover Saves the Universe. It's a VR game. It's the same writers and voice actors as the Rick and Morty series. The game is about what is it? You're a chairtopian, which means that you're just in a chair, and there's all these planets, and a guy comes to you and is like, "Oh, I'm gonna steal your dogs and put them in my eyes," and then he does that. And then another guy comes and is like, "Hey, why'd you give that guy your dogs? He's now destroying the universe." And that's the entire story.
LOL, that's so random.
Yeah, that's all of the humor in the game. So we're gonna risk alienating a lot of our listeners by saying that the humor is. I don't get it. I don't understand. The humor is entirely just talking a lot and real fast and without any breaks in speaking whatsoever, and just being mean and awful to everyone. Like not even in like an enjoyable way where you just hate one person and everyone else seems good. You just hate everyone. So the main character, I guess you're the main character in some regards, but the game's called Trover Saves the Universe, and you're controlling a purple thing that also can put like I forget what they call it. There's something like energy babies. You can put them in your eyes. Also, so you have collectibles in the game, but Trover is just this purple being that can also put things in his eyes and suggests that you collect things. So if you're playing in VR like I did for the peripheral off, you're in a chair in VR as you are in real life, and you have a controller in the world as you do in real life, and you're just controlling Trover, going around and slashing things and waiting for events to happen and collecting these little green aliens. I don't have a point here because that's the entire game. I don't know what the point of any of it was. The humor wasn't for me. The gameplay was the most rudimentary gameplay I've experienced in a very, 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 very long time. Yeah, I want to do the game justice. I'm sure a lot of people enjoyed this, but in my experience, it was a colossal waste of time.
Well, Brent, to be fair,
See.
You have to have a very high IQ to understand Trover Saves the Universe.
Oh, I know, and that's what people keep telling me about Rick and Morty, and they also say they have to get stoned to watch it, and I get really confused. And I haven't watched too much Rick and Morty, so I'm not going to bash on the Rick and Morty community. But if any of the humor from Rick and Morty is a good example of what you're getting in Trover Saves the Universe, like Trover Saves the Universe, like it's just it was. Do you want to not have fun? Do you want to not laugh? Do you want to have an uncomfortable VR headset on your head and then get a migraine because you have just weird weight going on your head, and then you're also turning artificially in this VR environment while waiting for someone else to yell at you in VR? Then Trover Saves the Universe might be for you.
Here's my question for you. So
Yeah.
When we talked about Borderlands 3 a couple of weeks ago, I talked about how it wasn't funny and how the story is boring as shit and didn't make sense with the gameplay. And I stand by that Borderlands 3 is not funny and the story is boring as shit and it doesn't match with the gameplay. But Borderlands 3's gameplay is super good, and I like it. It doesn't sound like that's the case for Trover. It sounds like you didn't like the story and the humor, and also the gameplay you didn't like either. Am I reading that right?
What gameplay are we talking about?
I heard that there was...
Are we talking about the turning? The turning of the chair?
I heard there was some light platforming in combat.
Yeah, there are extremely light platforming in combat. So here's full disclosure. I only played 2 hours of this game, and it's only like a 4 or 5 hour game. So after 2 hours, I was like, I cannot fucking do any more of this. I hate, like, this isn't why I play video games. I hate everything about this. The highlight of the game was the humor, and I didn't find it funny. So take from that what you will. But yes, there's like a light, like hack and slash and like 3D hack and slash. And for other than that, you're literally just porting from one beacon to another and turning your chair left and right, which is, I guess meta in some ways. I don't. It was like too obvious to be like, whoa, that's meta. It's like, yeah, I'm literally in a chair with a controller and a VR fucking headset on my head. Holy
what
shit,
in God's name just happened?
There's crazy storms down here.
Fuck's sake, that was like, I thought that some kind of spookable was banging on your front door or something.
No, that lightning bolt sounded like it like hit the street outside my house. Holy Christ.
Jesus. Okay.
Woo! All right, we got some adrenaline going now. What's up, everybody?
So,
yeah.
Let me ask you another thing. So if the gameplay doesn't save the story, let's ignore the fact that the story doesn't sound good to someone who doesn't find Rick and Morty entertaining. Does the story need the gameplay? Like, did this need to be a game rather than a 2-hour-long independent animated film by Justin Roiland?
That's a hard question to answer. I don't think any of this game needed to exist. Does that answer your question? I appreciated that it was in VR, but it seemed almost like they looked at real games and that's harsh. They looked at gaming and they were like, we don't know how to make a fun game. Let's use a gimmick and try and get off the hook with some of our wacky zany LOL random humor. And what they put together was nothing of note.
You know, that is a little disappointing, and not because I'm really in love with Rick and Morty in any way. I think I watched the first 2 seasons, maybe 3, and enjoyed aspects of them. I've not paid attention to it since. But more that I liked the idea of an intersection between a TV show that was that high profile and actual games, in the same way that I was excited for John Wick Hex.
Yeah.
Because there are so few tie-in games anymore that aren't shitty mobile experiences, like the Fox, animated card battling game, which I think is the newest thing that has any King of the Hill characters in it. So if you're a fan of King of the Hill and you want new King of the Hill content, that's where you go for it, I guess. I don't...
Thank God.
There's those kind of tie-ins, and I was kind of hoping that, okay, Trover saves the universe. If that does well and it is a good game, then it'll encourage more collaborations between TV and movie auteurs and video game auteurs. And it seems like 2 weeks in a row we've got that exact thing happening and failing. Is that another fair read?
No, absolutely. I'm with gaming, and this is a gaming podcast, should always be gameplay first. I'm all about story. I love a really, really well told narrative, and I think that a good narrative can carry a mediocre gameplay experience. But in this case, we're talking about a shit gameplay experience with a mediocre story that can absolutely not carry. Like I would have like. I can see how people would find it funny. I'm really not real. I understand why Rick and Morty's popular. I never got into it. I've only watched a few episodes. It didn't grab me. I'll try again in the future. Please don't hate on me. But this game, I had so little fun that the humor was almost sort of like a condolence. Like, oh, there, sweetie. Like, try and hang in there for the rest of us. Like, we don't want another body on our hands. No, so if they took a gameplay first standpoint with it, I probably could have gotten past it, and like some of the annoying characters, I would have understood. Like maybe the humor wasn't for me, but that's fine. But I'm having fun with the game, sort of like Borderlands, like Borderlands 2. Like I didn't always think it was the funniest thing. Sometimes I laughed uproariously, but like it was never like a captive audience sort of situation where it's like I have to listen to this shitty dialogue to play a game that I hate.
Just felt like work.
Yeah, I think that's the sum of the whole thing. Like I after 2 hours, I was like, please don't make me play any more of this. Like imaginary person that's making me play more of this game.
I watched the trailer and it did not grab me in any way, and I feel bad, but it just did not grab me in any way, because I want games like this to succeed, and I want to play these games, but
yeah, no, everything about it I wanted to be successful. I didn't come in as a Rick and Morty hater. I want VR games to be successful. I want games that are heavily inspired by popular media to be successful. It didn't seem to try to be any of those things. It just tried to really lean on the humor, which didn't really, when you're fully immersed in it, but also still not like taking place in the humor, other than controlling Trover for some contrived reason, which is also kind of annoying because then you get blamed for things that Trover's doing because you're controlling him, but you don't really understand why you're controlling him. It's just like, just go with it. It just all feels lazy, I guess, is to wrap it all up. The whole thing feels lazy.
It's so much easier to excuse bad drama than it is bad comedy, because bad drama can still be entertaining if it's so bad that it's funny, or it's absurd, or it's just confusing.
Yeah.
But bad comedy just leaves such a bad taste. And I think it's because in drama, there's never that moment where the actor or writer of the piece is waiting for your positive reinforcement with a laugh.
Mm-hmm.
Drama never pauses to give you time to cry. And so it just keeps going. Whereas comedy, you have that moment of, there's room here for laughter, but I'm not laughing.
Yeah, I mean, that's an excellent point. Yeah, I don't, and there's no real breaks or real moments in what I experienced in this game. So I really hope that in the future, like with such a narrative focused game, like I really hope in the future that we can find some much better intersection. But today was not that day. You disappoint me, Trover.
Well, that is disappointing. I always hate ending this on a down note.
Tell us about your greatest success of the week.
Oh my god, my greatest success of the week. Watch some good movies. You ever tried hot Dr. Pepper?
Hot Dr. Pepper. What the fuck is that?
Like, apparently in the 60s, it was common. Like, Dr. Pepper actually advertised with this, the idea that you would boil Dr. Pepper and then pour it over a thin slice of lemon as a winter beverage.
Interesting. I have not heard of this or tried it.
Okay. Dick Clark did a commercial where he suggested it. And I am inclined to believe him when it comes to winter beverages. I don't know why.
He was the foremost pioneer on winter
I've
beverages,
heard that.
so you're no fool.
And that's just, maybe that's just something that I learned through osmosis, over the time, that he and winter beverages were so greatly intertwined, and I just naturally took his advice. You know what I'm going to do? Here's what I'm going to do as a gift to all the listeners out there. In the time between now and our next episode, I'm going to try a glass of hot Dr. Pepper, and I will report back with my findings.
I'm so hyped for this.
Yeah, I feel like that this is what we are here for now. Next week is not a games podcast. It is a hot soda podcast. I think that's it for us. Yeah, let's wrap it up here.
Yeah, happy Halloween and all that.
Go out and do something spooky. Report back to us with any spooky games that you play. If there's a spooky game out there that you really enjoyed, let us know, and maybe we'll play it sometime.
All right. Well, that's been episode 16, everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye.